Welcome to Phoenix Uprising. I'm your host, Candace Paroli.
And I'm Jena.
Each week, we're bringing you real, unfiltered conversations about beauty, wellness, business, and the messy, magical process of rising from life's challenges. Think of this podcast like having coffee
or a gummy
with your girlfriends, the kind of friends who keep it real, give you solid advice, and cheer you on when you're ready to reinvent yourself.
That's us, two women who have walked through fire, rebuilt from the ground up, and are here to share the tools, insights, and stories to help you do the same.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, a beauty lover, a wellness seeker, or simply someone craving inspiration and transformation, this podcast is for you.
Join us every week for bold, soulful, and empowering conversations that will help you rise higher, personally, professionally, and spiritually.
Hi, welcome back to Phoenix Uprising, episode 2. We are your hosts. I'm Candace Paroli.
And I'm Jena.
And today we are going to be talking to you a little bit about breast cancer, in particular Jena's breast cancer experience.
Yeah. Something Candace and I always talk about is that we've been through a lot of things and we never want to feel like we're coming off as a victim. We're not victims. And so this is a heavy story and it's a sad story, but it's not, because 10 years later, here I am and I'm doing great and I'm feeling amazing. I'm in amazing shape and super healthy. So this is something I didn't talk about for a super long time. I honestly didn't talk about it for like 8 years. I just kind of went through it and kind of shoved it down and just didn't talk about it because I didn't want people to treat me differently. I didn't want to come off a certain way. And then I realized I have to talk about it. I have to deal with this, that I have this like humongous thing I went through that I have not dealt with, and I could help people by talking about it. So my whole mindset shifted on this last year and I decided I need to start talking about it.
Absolutely. And going back to what you said, it's a healing story. Yeah, you're not a victim. It's absolutely a healing story, and you have come so far, and it's amazing how healthy you are today and everything you're able to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I'll say this sometimes and it might sound a little weird, but cancer saved my life. Cancer was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And honestly, if I could go back and choose it or not, I would choose it again. Because cancer has made me who I am today.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I was 31 years old when I got breast cancer. And you actually just told me the other day that when you get diagnosed at a younger age, it's typically more aggressive.
Right. A lot of women, or a lot of people in general don't know that when
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when a woman gets diagnosed at a young age with breast cancer, it is more aggressive. So getting treatment quickly is imperative.
Mm-hmm. So it was October 2014, and I had actually just been at the gynecologist and she did a breast exam. And it was my boyfriend at the time that discovered a lump in my breast. And I was not concerned at all because I had just been to the doctor. She didn't feel anything. And I wasn't taking it seriously at all, if I'm being honest. And I was like, I didn't want to go to the doctor. And he was pushing me to go. And he eventually told my mom. And then my mom was pushing me to go. And I'm like, fine, I'll go to the doctor. So I put it off for a couple weeks. And I did make an appointment, and it was a really crazy thing. I was laying in bed one day, and I think I just bent down, I bent awkwardly, and I felt the lump with my chin. I could feel the lump in my breast.
From the time that he discovered it, it had grown?
It had grown, yeah. And I was like, I don't think I'm crazy. I think it got bigger. And I became incredibly concerned because it was it noticeably got bigger in the couple weeks that from first feeling it to, the time that I was about to go and get it checked out. So that was the first time I was pretty concerned. So the appointment came up, I got checked out, and they immediately sent me upstairs for an ultrasound, which also wasn't a good sign. So I remember being in the room with the ultrasound tech, and she does the ultrasound, and it's just me and her in the room. And I remember she looked at me and she said, "I don't like what I see." And I just knew that's not an official diagnosis, but I knew that she does this all day long. She knows what she's looking at, and I knew it was cancer. And you just know, like, there's just this feeling, and you just know. And that was a Friday evening, and they said I wouldn't get the results until Tuesday, and I knew.
Sorry, yeah, so you had to like sit with like the unknown for an entire weekend?
Yeah, for 3 days. Yeah. And which my family, you know, we're trying to be super positive and it'll be okay. It's going to be negative, but I knew, you know? And so it was this odd thing of waiting for the inevitable, that I know the answer already, with everyone being very positive around me. And yeah, that was Friday. I went home that night, and this story will probably sound odd, but I went in the bathroom just to be alone, and I remember sitting on the edge of the tub, and I just let it sink in. Like, okay, I know I have cancer. I know I'm about to have some unknown journey in front of me, and I'm about to fight cancer. And like a peace came over me, like a happiness almost. That sounds so weird, but like I knew this needed to happen for some reason.
So for our audience, and you're just, you know, getting to know Jena and I, and if you do follow us on social media and you see our silly trauma salad reels, mm-hmm. you know, yes, we poke fun at our traumas, and a lot of what you will hear is our traumas. They are very real. And both of us have gone through quite a bit. Mm. But what Jena and I always say about the traumas that we have gone through is we're not a product of them. We've lived through them. We have gone through the healing, and we continue to heal. So hearing her say that a peace came over her, knowing that she did have cancer, I understand why she felt that way at that time. Yeah. Just knowing part of her story, which you're going to find out more about. So if that is alarming to some of you listening, stick with us and you'll understand why.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a lot of things were going on in my life at that time that weren't great. And there was just the weirdest feeling of like, this will change my life for the better. You know, and I was terrified though. There's no cancer in my family. I knew nothing about cancer at the time. It was an unknown. I was terrified, but there is this knowing of this needs to happen, which is so odd. But so yeah, spend the whole weekend, Monday. Remember Monday night, like everyone's being positive, and I just know what's coming. Tuesday, I have my own business. I work from home, and normal Tuesday work day, and the call came in and they said it was cancer. And so when that call came in, they don't know all the details yet. You got to do testing. They could just tell me, yeah, you have cancer. And that began a whole bunch of tests. That was November. That was mid-November 2014. And I had to get a biopsy. That's when they take a little like specimen of the breast tissue. They can test it. I had MRIs, all kinds of tests done, and they discovered it was stage 2B breast cancer. So that means that it traveled to my lymph nodes, and that also denotes the size of the lump. It was like a pretty decent size. So my first big appointment was with the surgeon that would be doing my surgery, whatever that ended up being. And so in that appointment, I learned that there was a treatment plan. It was going to be chemo, surgery, and radiation, and hormone treatment. And it was going to be a year of treatment, which was just, horrifying. And some things that stuck out at that appointment, I remember I remember looking at the doctor and asking, why did I get cancer? It's not in my family. I'm 31 years old. And I remember her looking at me and saying, we don't know. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? How do you have no answer for me? We don't know.
So the entire team, like, they couldn't give you an answer?
Yeah, and I would continue to ask that question to any doctor, and it was always, we don't know.
And because you were so young, did they ask you if you had a plan or a thought about wanting a future family?
Oh God, yes. This was something I did not expect, and made it all so much more difficult. I thought, I'm 31 years old. I thought I didn't have any kids yet, but I thought I would in the future. I thought in my 30s I will be having kids at some point. And this is when they explained to me that this is an estrogen fed cancer. So my cancer was triple positive. So it was estrogen fed, and they immediately took me off of birth control, and any estrogen would make the cancer, the tumor, grow larger. So they wanted to shut down my body and put it basically in a menopausal state. So I immediately was put on a hormone treatment.
When you were 31?
And I'm 31. So in addition to what I'm about to tell you of the treatment I went through, I also was going through menopause at 31 years old. So hot flashes, night sweats, everything that comes with menopause, I was experiencing on top of it. So here was the deal with having kids. They said, if you want to have kids, you need to think about freezing your eggs right now. And I didn't have the money for it, and it really wasn't even something my brain could even process at the time. They said, you're going to be on hormone treatment for 10 years. You probably might not, but probably will be able to have kids when you come off of it in 10 years. So my options were, I could probably have kids at 41 or 42, or freeze my eggs now.
But by that time you would need fertility drugs, which cost money.
Yeah.
So you were essentially robbed of that choice.
Yeah, and I didn't have the money for this. So this was just something I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to wrap my brain around probably not having children. And I just kind of put that to the side. It was like so overwhelming to me. I remember Thanksgiving time, like dealing with that decision and being like, I can't even process this. But yeah, that was a huge, huge thing. And then of course with chemo, I knew I was going to lose my hair. And I was going to be on chemo for 6 treatments every 3 weeks. So there's about 5 months of chemo, and then surgery, and then radiation. And another thing that was really sucked is they kept delaying it, and I don't know why, because it was growing fast, but I wanted to get it before Christmas, and they pushed my first appointment to January 6th. So I had to go through the holidays, and it was just rough. It was just like, I don't want to do any of this. I was so miserable. I don't feel like celebrating Christmas. It was so rough just waiting for this to happen.
Right.
And so December just became a bunch of tests and everything, and getting ready for this, what I'm about to face. And I can't even fathom what's about to happen to me. So it was January 6th. It was my first chemo appointment. I went to the cancer center. There's these chemo chairs that you sit in, and it's like a reclining chair. And I was there for about 6 hours that first day.
Wow.
And so they intravenously, the cocktail I was on was 2 chemos, 2 hormone treatments. They would put Benadryl in there, so I would pass out every time. And they were also giving me an injection in my stomach. And that injection is what put me in that menopausal state.
Were there any other women while you were having those treatments, those 6-hour treatments, that were around your age?
No, never. I mean, I'm obviously, there were, I'm sure at different times there were, but never when I have been at the cancer center, actually in the last 10 years, did I ever see a woman my age. Like, honestly, they were always older than me. And yeah, right when I was doing chemo, I was by far the youngest. They would always just look at me like, what are you doing here?
So I can imagine that probably felt like a very lonely time for you.
Oh God, incredibly, incredibly lonely. It was, and I was still trying to even understand it. Like, why do I have cancer? Like the doctors are saying, I don't know. I'm like, all of it was just so much. So that first treatment, it was super long. I remember, like, I got so sleepy with the Benadryl, and Just it lasted forever, but went home, felt okay. The next day, the second day after every chemo, they were giving me this Neulasta shot, and that was to curb nausea. So I went to somewhere else the next day. I would get that shot, and so I got that shot, and that's how I knew about cancer. I was like, okay, I won't throw up. That's great. Like, what other symptoms could there be? Yeah, I was about to find out. So probably that second night, I started feeling some things, and the list of symptoms was just so long. Like, I can't even. It was just, it flu-like symptoms, like my body ached, my nerve endings hurt, cold-like symptoms, GI issues, and then just odd things. Like, that first week, my entire face broke out in acne. And I was like, come on, what are we doing here? This is too much.
Right.
I can't, this is way too much. I remember I called, it was a Saturday night. I always got these treatments on Tuesday. It was Saturday night. My face is completely broken out. So I called the on-call doctor and I explained, and I'm like, please help me. Like, so he calls in prednisone for the acne. So now I'm on a steroid too. So, I mean, I'm on quite the cocktail of drugs. The worst symptom the entire time was that I could not drink or eat normally because everything tasted like poison to me. I could not drink plain water. It was so bad. And every time I would bring this up to my doctors or whoever, everyone would say, does it taste like metal? No, it tastes like poison. Like, truly, I would take a sip of water and my body would say, spit it out. It's poison.
Oh, wow.
It was, and it's something it's hard to even explain, but it was so bad. And so that first treatment consisted of me trying to even figure out what liquids and foods I could eat, and it wasn't much. And they had told me at the cancer center, which I found very odd, but they were like, we need you to get liquids in. We don't even care if it's Kool-Aid. Well, I don't think it should be Kool-Aid. But
Kool-Aid, anything will do.
Yeah, Kool-Aid didn't work either, though. For me, I just finally discovered, like, thicker liquids is all I could keep down, which is so strange. But it was like V8 or aloe juice, like just anything that was a little thicker. That was all that would work for me. And it was still hard to get down. And food, it was so hard to figure out food. I ended up eating a bunch of saltine crackers, and it just felt like something I could get down. But that was really, really tough. And so I was barely eating, barely drinking, and they were telling me how important it was to flush my system with a bunch of liquids, but I could not get them down. Like, I was choking, like, getting liquid down. It was so difficult. But yeah, the symptoms they were really hard. Like, I would suddenly just get overcome with heat, and like my cheeks would be bright red and my whole body would be on fire. Like, just everything you can think of, and things you can't think of, like everything. It was just so many symptoms at once. I felt truly terrible. It was terrible. And it was these cycles. It was 3-week cycles of, I got it every 3 weeks. So the first week was the worst. The first 10 days were rough. When we got into the second week, I was a little more normal. And so I would start to work again, because I'm a business owner. So I would just try to make it work. I would work when I could, and I definitely couldn't work that first week. I was way too sick. But then when I would feel better, then I would do some more normal things and try to get some work done and stuff. And always right before that third week, where it was time for my next treatment, like the day before, or maybe the day of, I could drink water again. I would get like one day of reprieve. And I'd be like, oh my God, it tastes normal again. And then right back to it. Yeah. And what I didn't realize is it was like a cumulative effect. It got worse with each chemo. So so I knew I was going to lose my hair. So I had these visuals of like clumps of hair falling out, and that felt very traumatic. So I thought, I'm going to cut my hair before it starts falling out in clumps. So before my second chemo treatment, I just buzzed my whole head. And so I still had hair, but I buzzed it super short. And I thought, like, I'm going to do it on my own terms, because that just sounds awful. I don't want chunks of hair when I wake up in the morning. So I went to my second treatment with like just a buzzed hair and got the second treatment, and I didn't know that everything was going to be so much worse each time. But the second treatment was the same thing all around again, but just a worse version of it. Like, everything felt worse. Like, it was turned up a notch. And my hair got a little thinner at that point. And I remember I buzzed it like even shorter a second time. And then I'll never forget, I got a shower the one night, and my hair was so short I could just like dry it by putting my hand through it. And I got out of the shower, I put my hand through my hair, and all of my hair at once fell off in my hand.
Oh, God.
So I was completely bald, and like there's my hand was just full of these little hairs. It was so crazy. So I got...
That's a trauma salad.
Yeah, it's a trauma salad. So I got back in the shower, and I shaved my head with a razor, and then I was bald.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So really thriving. This was about February, 2 chemo treatments in, completely bald, usually just overcome with heat. My cheeks are red. Like, everything was great. Everything was so good. Yeah, it was rough. So around this time, on the 3rd treatment, I got genetics testing. So the genetics testing, they were checking for the BRCA gene, BRCA. And I had made a decision that if I had this BRCA gene, which meant I'm more susceptible to getting cancer again, that I would do a full mastectomy, which I was terrified of. I absolutely did not want to do a full mastectomy, but I thought if I have this gene, like, why would I risk it? Because I might get it again. So I really didn't want to have the BRCA gene, so they did the full genetics testing for that. And I remember every appointment, they'd be like, do you have a family history? Nope. No. Can anyone tell me why I have this? There was never any answers. So around the 4th treatment, I think it was, yeah. 4th treatment, I mean, things are just compounding. And in the mental aspect of this, like the mental fog, like, oh my God, it was unbearable. Like that first 10 days after each treatment, it was just absolutely awful. So it was the fourth treatment. I'm about maybe 10 days after it, and I'm starting to feel better. I'm working, I'm on my laptop, and I look down at my arm, and it's red and swollen, like my forearm. I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. I had no idea what it was. I went through my day. By the end of the night, there's heat radiating from it. So I have this swollen red hot thing on my arm. And I'm like, okay, I guess it's time to go to the ER. This isn't good. So I go to the ER that night. And I'm not doing great. I'm not thriving. I've been putting on weight this whole time, probably the prednisone. So, I feel terrible. I feel terrible in every single way possible. Physically, mentally, everything. My appearance, So, great. I'm going to the ER now. So I go to the ER, and so they tell me I have cellulitis, which is a skin infection.
Right.
Like, why would I have cellulitis? So they're like, yeah, you have cellulitis. And they give me a room upstairs. They take me upstairs. They start giving me antibiotics. Okay, so I am already on so many drugs. I'm on a steroid. Now I'm on antibiotics too. Great. What else can you give me? So I'm like, okay, I have cellulitis. So it's not till the next day I'm in this hospital room, and they come in and they're like, oh, you don't have cellulitis. You have a blood clot. Okay. How did this happen? Okay. So the antibiotics stop. I'm sure they already did damage to me. And now I'm on blood thinners because I have a blood clot. So I've been poked so many times with these needles, getting my chemo treatments, getting everything done, that my veins are starting to close down. And so my arms are done, they're using my hands at this point. So it's very hard for them to find a vein, and this is how the blood clot happened. So I'm in the hospital for 5 days, I think. I remember my dad brought me V8 because it was all I could drink and just struggling with the hospital food, and I don't know, just, trying to survive, going about 5 days. And as soon as I got out, it was okay, I got a couple more days and it's time for my next treatment. Mm-hmm. So treatment 5 comes up, and about a week or 10 days later, I look down at my right arm and it's swollen and it's red. Oh. I'm like, oh, here we go again. So back to the hospital. They told me again that I have cellulitis. And I'm like, no, I just did this. I was just here a few weeks ago. It's a blood clot. And they're like, no, it's cellulitis. I was really not even in my right mind. I'm not in a great state. And so, today I would have fought more, but I'm like, okay, it's cellulitis, I guess. So antibiotics again, up to the hospital room again. Again, they tell me, oh, we made a mistake. It's a blood clot. That's what I thought. Okay. So back on blood thinners. I have another blood clot. So my doctor calls me and she's like, listen, we need to put in a port. This is going to keep happening. Your veins are closing down and you still have, my chemo's coming to an end, but you still have hormone treatments all year. Mm-hmm. So we need a way to get these in you. So we're going to install a port. I don't know what that means. I'm really beat down. I'm not thinking straight. I'm just like, if you tell me I need it, I need it. And up to this point, I had researched everything and looked in, and like, I'm just done at this point. I don't know what's what anymore. I'm like, okay, I'll get a port. Sounds good. I do remember there was a really good moment during the second hospital stay. I got a phone call the one day. I'm in my hospital bed, and they tell me genetics testing came back, and I don't have the BRCA gene. So I was thrilled about this. This is like my first bit of good news because I know now that I can just get a lumpectomy, and I don't have to get the mastectomy because a mastectomy is an absolutely awful procedure where they remove all the breast tissue. They have to stretch the skin and put in implants.
Right.
And this is some of the work that Candace has done in her career. She does absolutely incredible 3D areola tattooing.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. You need to check her work out. But for women that have had this done, she tattoos back on the very realistic looking nipple and the areola and makes it look like...
Yeah. It is a very massive traumatic surgery. That involves quite a bit, and yes, we can correct the scars, create very realistic 3D areolas, and sometimes they do nipple sparring where they take some of the skin and create a little bit of skin, and then we can build around that and create an areola from that. Some women opt not to do that, so that's another option too. But yeah, we get a little bit of everything.
Yeah, incredible. But I felt so fortunate at that moment that I can just get the lumpectomy, which is far easier.
I know, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, get out of the hospital. Before my 6th chemo treatment, I'm going to get the port installed so I don't get another blood clot. So, silly me, I think this is just some like simple in-office procedure. I haven't researched it at all. I don't know what I'm getting. So I remember I go to the hospital and like they take me back. They put me in a gown. They take me into an operating room. And I'm like, wait a minute. Am I getting an operation?
What am I doing here?
Yeah. So it turns out the port is this. They gave me Twilight. They put me out. And the port is this, actually over here, this little device they put in under the skin. And it actually protrudes from the skin. So it's like a disc that's like kind of thick and it protrudes, and I did not like having that. It just felt so foreign. It just sticks out of your body at all times. It's but it goes like right into your veins. So like they didn't have to poke me anymore, my arms, my hands. So that was nice. But that was a big thing. Like it was like I still have a very big scar from it. It was a scar, it was really bruised, so it was a huge thing. I was like, okay, I probably should have researched that. But so yeah, I got the port, and then I had my 6th and final treatment, which it was awful. I was so sick, so incredibly sick, but it was done. And I'll never forget how exhausted I was in that 6th treatment. Like, I'll talk about all the time, like I had to walk up the stairs. I lived upstairs, and I remember that 6th treatment, like I could barely walk up like 12 stairs, and I got to the landing and I was just exhausted. It took everything I had to walk up the stairs, and I just was like, remember vowing, like I will never let myself be sick like this again. Like this is never happening again. I can never feel this way again. It was just the worst. So 6th treatment, and then now we're getting ready for surgery. So after I felt better after the 6th treatment, they did some testing and they did an ultrasound. They looked at the size of the lump again, and it had gone down. So the chemo worked, which was great news. The size of the lump was down, which meant less tissue had to be removed for surgery. So in May, I got ready for surgery. And yeah, I remember that. Like no hair, barely any eyelashes. My eyebrows were pretty thick before that. They were very thin. And I remember them saying, no makeup for surgery. And I was like, well, I'm going to fill in my eyebrows because this looks ridiculous.
Priorities.
Priorities, yeah. So yeah, the surgery was very smooth. But it was rough after that because they took, I forgot to talk about, my surgeon called me and she was like, so here's how the lymph node thing goes. She said, you have a bunch of lymph nodes and we don't know which lymph nodes the cancer is in. And she said, the more lymph nodes we take out, the higher your risk is of getting lymphedema. And I'm like, what is lymphedema? So she describes lymphedema. It's this condition you can get when your lymph nodes are removed where you have a permanent swelling in your arm and you have to wear compression gear and it never goes away. And I was like, well, that sounds awful. I don't want that. I was terrified of that then. And she said, so what we can do is this blue dye test. And we inject you with blue dye. And whichever lymph nodes the blue dye travels to, that's most likely where the cancer is. So we can take less lymph nodes that way. But I can't guarantee I'm going to get all of the cancer that way. So it was like this other big decision I had to make. And so I said, what would you do? And she said, I would do the blue dye test. So that's what I went with. So that was what the surgery was, a lumpectomy and the blue dye test. They ended up taking 6 lymph nodes. And it wasn't like after the surgery, it wasn't like super painful, but it was a lot of work trying to get use of my arm again because I had a scar above my nipple and like in my armpit, and because they went in there, like the back of my arm is still numb, like I have no feeling back here. You can touch the back of my arm, I can't feel it. It took a long time to try to get back the use of my arm and lift my arm all the way up and lift my shoulder up. And I remember they called me and they were like, well, yeah, we want you to do this, rehab 3 times a week, and I was like, no, I can't. I've had so many doctor appointments. I have so many more doctor appointments to go. I can't do that. I'll just do it myself. So I tried my best to like walk my fingers up the wall and do all the PT things and try to rehab it. I did not get full range of motion back until like 3 years later when I started working out at the gym, and I did get it all back. But at the time, I did the best I could with it. But yeah, that was a little tough to recover from. But that's when things started to get a lot better. So the chemo symptoms are starting to leave. And obviously that was the worst part, and I'm starting to feel a bit better. I still had to get the hormones intravenously administered every 3 weeks. So I was still going back to the hospital, still going to the chemo chair, but just getting hormones now. Still getting the Zoladex injection, so I'm in menopause, but the chemo treatments those are done, and like I can drink water again, I can taste food again, like that is amazing. So then the next step was radiation. So the point of radiation is anything that is missed, any cancer cells still in your body, this should clean that up. So my hair is starting to come back a little bit. It probably took 2 months for my hair to come back, but like it was weird. I had like peach fuzz. It wasn't in the front yet. It was just like, so I couldn't really like not like cover my head. I had been covering my head with like scarves and hats and stuff. So I still had to cover my head, but it was coming. It was exciting because they do tell you there's a chance your hair won't grow back, which is another terrifying fear you have the whole time. And they say your hair texture can completely change. I had very like poker straight hair, and they're like, it can go back completely curly. So I started the radiation. The radiation was painless. The only problem is it was every single day. I had 30 appointments, and so it was every weekday for 6 weeks. So it was like a job.
Well, yeah. And how long were you there?
They might have only been, once I got in the groove of it, might have only been 45 minutes. But, you're waiting in the waiting room, you're driving there, so the whole thing became like an hour and a half, and it was just this, thing you do every day. Get in a gown, walk down the hall, you lay there topless, there's a bunch of people in the room, it's loud, but it's painless.
Right.
And so before they do that, they give you tattoos. They're called radiation markers. They do 4 of them, and they're marking where the radiation is going, so all those 30 days they can put it in the same spot again. But what really bothered me is I remember them telling me, hey, keep the tattoos even after, because in case you get cancer again, we want to know where we did radiation. I was like, I don't like that. And I remember I wanted to get those removed as soon as I finished, and I don't know why I didn't. It wasn't like a real reason. I just never did it. And actually, Candace just did it for me, because another thing she does is she does non-laser tattoo removal. She just did that for me earlier this year.
Yeah.
So it took me 10 years, but I finally got them removed, which was awesome. But yeah, so radiation became like something that wasn't so bad. My hair finally did come back enough that I gave myself like a buzz cut, and I didn't wear a scarf or anything anymore. Like I had hair again, and That was so exciting. And some of the weight I had gained, I put on 25 pounds. And I'm only 5'1", so 25 pounds is a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And so I lost some of that immediately as soon as I stopped the chemo, and probably the prednisone. But I was still overweight, and so, but I was starting to feel a little more normal. Still have a bunch of symptoms, but it's a walk in the park compared to what I had before. And this is when I started, like, I would go to the park and walk, and I tried to, like, start working out a little bit, which was, like I said, I could barely get up the steps before that. So that was feeling, like, really good. By the time I finished radiation, and by September, I actually went on a business trip to New York and had very short hair, but I was feeling pretty good, and, like, it felt really good to be normal. And I had menopause symptoms. Which was crazy I'm 31. I was 32 at that time, but I still would get hot flashes and night sweats and everything. But I was feeling somewhat normal, so that was great.
Your new normal.
My new normal, yeah. And I had to start learning how to live with these symptoms, and I learned all about nutrition and diet at this time. Like, I really didn't. I had a pretty shitty diet before, so I learned all about. I have an autoimmune disorder too. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which I never took very seriously. I just took my pill and I didn't think about it much. I didn't even know it was an autoimmune disorder, actually. I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know that. So then I realized, like, that's when I went gluten-free. And that's when I realized with Hashimoto's, you really shouldn't eat gluten. So I changed my diet. I adopted more of, like, a paleo diet, and I just learned all about nutrition. I started eating healthy, and yeah, it was the beginning of me, like, just really starting over and treating my body how I should. And so, like, that was a huge silver lining of cancer, of, like, learning all of this stuff. I didn't know any of this before. So yeah, the rest of the year I had to finish out the hormone treatment. So I still had a bunch of appointments, but, everything was so much better. And they have a tradition when you're done with your treatment, you ring the bell at the cancer center. So it was a 13-month journey, but I had my last hormone treatment in December, and I rang the bell, and it was pretty awesome. I still had a long way to go, but, like, it was pretty crazy. It was an amazing feeling to finish all of that.
So you finished the last chemo in December of that year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Found the lump in November of the previous year, finished in December of the next year.
Did you have to continue to do more radiation?
No. So that was it. So the only thing I had to continue, radiation was done, chemo was done. The only thing I had to finish was getting that shot in my stomach. So I was getting the injection every 3 months, and I continued to do that for the next 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my estrogen was pretty shut down for the next 10 years. I just got off of that this year. But I would take a daily pill, and I got this injection. And I had, daily, or not daily, but yearly checkups, like bone scans and mammograms, breast MRI, number of things I still had to do. And, I still saw my oncologist every 3 months. But yeah, that was the continuing treatment, just the hormone treatment.
Wow.
And
how was your life going through cancer, like, and trying to run a business and your home life at the same time?
None of that was good. None of that was good. Yeah, so I do have a business partner, and I guess it was better than not having a business partner, but he wasn't super helpful. He lives in another state. At that time, we had worked together for quite a while. We had already known each other for like 9 years at that point. And so I would have liked if he would have done quite a bit more, but funny enough, like, the business was pretty stalled during my sickness. And then once I felt better, things really picked up and business started doing really well once I could work again. And home life wasn't great at all. And actually something I really hardly ever talk about, and I'm going to talk about these things for the first time, is that actually while I was going through cancer and chemo, I was living with domestic violence. So it was, as you can imagine, everything, talked about, it was made so much worse by the person I was living with.
So we will continue more of Jena's breast cancer story and her story about her domestic violence journey on part 2. If you or anyone you know has been dealing with domestic violence, please do not hesitate to go to thehotline.org. Thank you guys. See you next week.